Decluttering has been a huge trend in the minimalism community, and it has been promoted as a great idea in general as well. Who does not want a refresh by getting rid of unused stuff, or a whole life reset by decluttering everything that does not seem to have a place in our new vision for the future? But more often than not, decluttering does not really bring long-lasting effects. Because we forget how difficult it can be to find a new home for our unused stuff, or to prove that decluttering things actually made us happier in the long run. Well, you know that I have been decluttering and living a minimalist life for 8 years now. So why would I say that I do not recommend decluttering anymore? I do think decluttering in many ways is like a diet. If it's used for a quick fix to quickly change around your life, and if the methods are extreme, then it's much more likely that we're gonna binge soon afterwards. And by binge, when we talk about decluttering, of course, I mean buying stuff again. And so I've seen so many people decluttering a lot of things and then buying a lot of things again and then decluttering a lot of things again. It's the yo-yo effect. It's the changing curves that don't really lead anywhere, but you're spending a lot of time worrying about your stuff, decluttering things, buying new things, which costs a lot of time and also a lot of money. So I do not think it's a good strategy, no matter if you want to become a minimalist or live more sustainably. It's just not really helpful. I just think this is kind of a good picture that illustrates the problems of just getting rid of a bunch of stuff without doing it intentionally, but we will leave that picture behind now and focus on other things. So I think a lot of times we see decluttering as something necessary, as something that just everyone needs to do, because stuff piles up. So what do you need to do? You need to declutter. But when we think about the actual cause of our problem, it's not the lack of decluttering, it's because we buy too much, it's consumerism. And yes, we are living in a capitalist society, we are encouraged to consume as much as possible, and our current lifestyles usually do need some decluttering to work, because otherwise we will drown in our stuff. But I think it's just a good idea to actually think about it and realize that buying so many things and buying more than we need and buying things without thinking if we actually need them is not natural. It's not logical. It's not something that we need to do. And the logical consequence would maybe be to think more about what we buy, to buy less, and therefore never even end up with this huge pile of stuff that we don't need anymore. But here, of course, I am not a fan of extreme minimalism anymore. And I completely understand we're just all coming from a certain place out from this consumerist society. So this is like a step-by-step thing. Of course, we can't from one day to the next stop buying everything. We can try and maybe it's successful. But I think more successful are more slower approaches. We have to slowly learn to not impulse purchase things. We have to slowly learn to find reasons to not buy things. We have to slowly learn about the joy of just owning what we own and not needing to shop for new stuff, not needing to declutter all the stuff all the time. And so I do understand that it's of course hard to do that very quickly, but I still think that in order to find a long-term successful strategy, it's very important to stop the accumulation of stuff instead of just always trying to fix it afterwards by decluttering. Back to the analogy from the beginning, I do not recommend decluttering because I think it's too much of a quick fix. I think, always, a slow and steady lifestyle change will lead to better long-term results. So by that, and because I said I'm not a fan of extremes anymore, I don't think you can never declutter anything. I also do not think that you can never buy anything anymore. What I mean is do it in moderation. And that means being intentional when we buy things and slowly learn, as I said, about the reasons for buying and for decluttering things. And I think especially the decluttering part needs to be done a bit more careful as well. I think the way it's promoted a lot is to be as ruthless as possible, to get rid of as much as possible because it's junk, because you don't need it, because it's going to stand in your way of your life. But I think that can just rob you of a possibility to learn. So I think it's very, very important that we give ourselves the time and the space, and that we give the items the time and the space to learn from everything we declutter, because needing to declutter something can have different reasons. Of course, it can happen that your life changes or your body changes. So something you have been using, you can't really use anymore. And I think that's a very valid reason to declutter it. But then, of course, you can think about your future. Is it likely that you're going to need this again? And you can declutter things because they're broken, yes, of course. But then, of course, we also kind of think about, will I buy the exact same thing? Did it break after like 20 years of using, or did it break after a few weeks? Like, should I make a different purchasing decision next time? We declutter things that we maybe regret buying, and there it's really important, I think, to learn about this purchasing decision and to learn about your feelings towards the thing and how could it happen that I thought that I really, really need this. And then a few weeks, months, years later, I think like, why did I even buy this? I really don't need this anymore. And yes, it won't be perfect from the start. Like, we will make mistakes again. And I think that's very normal. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't even try. So this process is definitely not linear, as I said. And you're gonna maybe turn in a few circles and see yourself at a point where you thought like, how did I end up here again? In my life, I think I had a phase of like decluttering a lot. And there were reasons for that, like moving abroad and kind of just learning a lot about myself and about the things that I actually use and like. And then there's been a phase of like relatively no buying and a little bit of decluttering. And then lately, actually during the past year, I think I haven't really decluttered, but I did buy quite a few things, to the point where I'm thinking now, like, maybe after thinking so much about it, after making so many videos about not buying too much, I am maybe buying a bit much. And so I can just, readjust and see that and reflect on it and make a new decision to maybe hopefully live more so according to my values in the future. And by saying this, I think it's important that I'm not just talking about minimalism. Now, I understand that when you start with like a huge house of things and you realize this is too much, then yes, maybe decluttering will be necessary. But instead of just throwing it all out, I think it's important to do it intentionally, as I said. And I think this also counts for every single person that just declutters sometimes as their spring cleaning routine or something, because I just think being more mindfully and not just blindly decluttering as we maybe have during the past few years, or at least that's how it seems online, and that's definitely what I did. I think this really gives us the opportunity to actually learn a lot and to actually like stop the constant purchasing as well. Because what I did is I want to be more responsible for the things that I actually bought. So I'm not just lightly decluttering them anymore when they're not 100% what I want anymore. Like when I'm just 80% happy with something, in the past, a few years ago, I would have decluttered it because I thought like, I just want the best in my life. And now I'm thinking like, on one hand, things change, and on the other hand, I have this thing, I bought this, I invited this into my life, and so I'm kind of responsible for it. And when I declutter it, I really can't guarantee that anyone is using it anymore. And when I declutter it, then that maybe sounds to me like I can now buy something new, and that's maybe just not necessary if I already have a thing that's perfectly fine. Now, I think here it's very much so about a balance. I'm not promoting like punishing ourselves for our past purchases. I'm not promoting, I don't know, wearing clothes that you really don't like or that don't fit you. You are absolutely allowed to have good things, to have things you love, to have things that you feel comfortable with. But I also think that sometimes it doesn't really hurt to maybe just sit with your things and accept that these are the things that you bought and that these are the things that actually work fine, and that there's no need to just buy something new because now you just feel like you would enjoy a different color more. And that's, I think, what I want to say with this video. Not changing our stuff is a success as well. It saves us a lot of time, it saves us a lot of money, it saves us worrying about where to bring our things that we decluttered. It saves us worrying about like, yeah, but now I decluttered it, so now I need something new, and all of this. Because I think this constant change, even if it's in the name of decluttering and not in the name of buying new things, oftentimes is less about the stuff than we think and more about feeling uneasy and feeling like we need to change something about our surroundings. Now, all of these are, of course, just thoughts on my journey, thoughts that I have about decluttering and buying new things. And it's definitely a very privileged view because I am able to declutter and buy new things. But I think at least trying to live according to my values, trying to live sustainably, and trying to live intentionally with the people and the things and the planet around me. For me, this is the solution for right now. And this is why I try to not unnecessarily declutter things. And if you want to know more about the actual things that I buy and declutter and get maybe for free or find somewhere every single month, then I have a whole playlist of videos where I talk about everything that comes into my life and everything that goes out of my life each and every month, that I will link you here now to check out. Thank you so much for watching, and especially thank you to everyone who's supporting me on Patreon, because that really helps me out a lot. And I do hope to see you there or in my next video. Goodbye.